Hey everybody. A quick note before starting today's episode. This interview for today's episode was conducted with somebody who lives down in Costa Rica. With this type of distance between me and the interviewee, and the medium which I use to record these episodes, which is Skype, I don't always get the best internet connection when these types of interviews occur, which oftentimes results in less than optimal audio. Today's episode is going to sometimes portray this fairly well. As you listen, you're probably going to hear a few glitches and maybe a little bit of muffling. There's going to be quite a bit of background noise. Some of it is the result of wind or workers or things like howler monkeys. While I think that this adds a little bit of flavor to the interview, I feel fairly certain that some people might find this discouraging. All I can say is, please bear with me. One of the main drugs discussed in today's episode is one that hasn't been discussed in previous episodes. And I find that really valuable, especially considering that so few people in our culture have actually had the chance to experience this substance. So, having said that, I hope that the minor audio hiccups are palatable, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks again for listening, everybody.
Yeah, my name's Levi Barker, and I'm an Iboga provider at Iboga Wellness Center in Costa Rica. We've been around for about 6 years now and treated over 700 people here. And like many people in life, I came to Iboga because life wasn't perfect. Issues growing up, my early or into my late 20s, a heavy drug addiction. Was into most drugs, but then found the ones that you can't really get away from, which is opiates. I went through a long 10-year process of trying to find a way to end the addiction, and that led me to Iboga. So, like many people that may have heard of Iboga or Ibogaine, is due to opiate addiction. But after working with the medicine for so long and really dedicating a large part of my life to it, I know this medicine is for everybody, for whatever comes up in life for us, and for the people that are called to it, anyways. And it really does just teach us about life and how to live life and how to treat ourselves. Really keeping a nice internal dialogue with ourselves and not beating ourselves up. Like the medicine makes us very conscious of that. So, I dedicated my life to this medicine for a long time and been full-time doing it for about 4 years now, and I'm just seeing very consistent results across the board for all types of human problems.
Psychotropic presents Levi. Could you describe how you were introduced to opiates?
So yeah, like a lot of people, I had a snowboarding accident in my early 20s, and I broke my wrist. There was one jump I hit that I thought I could take it double the speed, but I didn't realize on the other side of this same jump, it was covered up with snow, that it was more kind of a straight up boost, and came down really hard, and had to have surgery on my wrist, and the doctor prescribed Percocet to me, and I had never had anything like that. And the first couple times, just really does take away the pain, but then I started realizing that this was also taking care of a lot of pain and insecurities and just internal things with myself that nothing had ever done before. So like a lot of people start liking that feeling of being able to escape. And so then after I didn't need the Percocet anymore for my surgery, I went and sought them out. And so got a couple prescriptions, and then this was kind of pre the big opiate boom, kind of right at the start of the the late 90s, early 2000s, right at the start when things really started blowing up as far as opiates go, just the number of people using them. And eventually the prescription opiates run out, and then you're trying methadone or Suboxone, then of course it goes into heroin. So I went up and down for many years, where sometimes it's really, really bad, other times I was keeping it together. Eventually I got to a point where I was decent at sustaining, and was an entrepreneur and had a couple different successful businesses, but just really wasn't satisfied inside. And eventually a very dear friend of mine, who is just one of the most knowledgeable people about plants and plant medicines I know, I asked him, and not really expecting to get such a solid answer because it seemed too far out for something like this to exist. But I asked him, is there something that can help with the opiates, And he said, yeah, Iboga. And he actually had some Iboga and got it to me. I was living in Nicaragua at the time, and got it here in Nicaragua, or there in Nicaragua. And I had my first Iboga experience on my own, and was able to get through the physical withdrawal of opiates, and but came out the other side after that. Wasn't physically addicted, but all these emotions and things I had been suppressing through the opiates were still there. I hadn't dealt with any of that yet. I was just physically clean. And so that's really when a lot of the work started. And a year and a half later, after that first Iboga experience, I met our teacher. His name's Mogenda Mikola. He's a 10th generation Bwiti shaman from Gabon. And we became friends, and I started helping him with different aspects. He had a place called Iboga House, started helping him with internet marketing. It was just barely getting going, and he was just trying to stay afloat. So, knowing the power of the medicine and just what it does for changing lives, I was really into that work and doing that for him. And then proceeded many years after with him, not full, but I would go down several times a year to Iboga House from my house in Nicaragua, and I'd go from my house in Nicaragua to Iboga House several times per year and spend good chunks of time with him, just learning about how to work with the medicine, and just sitting in a lot of ceremonies so you can see all the different situations that can come up, and how to manage those when they do.
Could you describe what opiate addiction is like?
Oh, it's the worst, man. So it takes over every aspect of your thinking. I mean, unless, first thing when you wake up in the morning, if you don't have anything, that is number one, because, if you don't get that, then nothing else is happening for the day. Nothing. So whatever it takes to get that is the number one priority. So makes traveling very difficult. It makes even, going to another city very difficult overnight. You always have to know where, you're going to get your next dose. So just really consumes you where the opiates almost become your partner or spouse. They're just with you all the time. And it's a very jealous, plant or opium. Is where opioids come from. It's a very jealous plant that really wants to seclude you from anything else happening in life. And so, friends don't really matter, family doesn't matter. All that matters is, getting the dope and giving it one more shot about forgetting about what's happening in your life. And so, that's pretty bad itself. But once you've had enough, and many opiate addicts go through the cycle, once you've had enough, then you got to detox. And that's, if you've never been through that, you can't imagine how hard it is, especially if you're doing it cold turkey, or even, in a hospital with different, Valium or whatever they may give you. It's a very, very difficult thing. You plan on not sleeping for 4 or 5, possibly 6 nights, just shaking, jerking around in your bed. You can't sit still. Your nose is running. So there's a lot of those physical symptoms. But the worst is just not being able to sit still and not sleeping, even though you're so very tired. And even after that process happens, where you're physically, you can sleep again. The brain still isn't back in working order, spiritually and also just on a physical level, with your dopamine and serotonin, different receptors and adrenals. They just take a beating with the opiates, so it takes a long time to get those things back in order. And that's why most people do relapse, because they never get fully back from the detox. And it just becomes too much of a fight, after so many months, or, even a year, or depends on each person. But that's really what gets a lot of people. A lot of people can get through that first week or so, but then the darkness that just hangs over you for, months, becomes unbearable. So something like Iboga is able to, get somebody's brain back in working order. But yeah, it's just Lord of the Rings with Smeagol, Gollum. That character was based off of a an opiate or a heroin addict, with the ring being the drug or the heroin. And it's similar like that, where it just becomes your everything, and that's all you care about or can think about, and do whatever you can to just stay afloat, just to be able to keep going.
Could you describe how your opiate addiction evolved in your life? Like, how did it affect your life and your relationships?
Yeah, so, never having any money was a big one. I, never had to resort to stealing. I had a job, and, but still never had any money. Whatever extra money I had would go chasing, just a deeper hole within opiates. And so, when that's your all-encompassing friends, your real friends, and the people that may be trying to support you to go a different direction just really don't matter. So relationships are very distant, and that goes especially with your family. The last people you want to know about something like that is your family, so you hide that extra hard from them. And so I was able to do that for maybe 2 years or so, a year and a half, before my father found out. And yeah, that one hurt when he found out, and basically took me in and had me kicking cold turkey, got me out of my house. But yeah, it's just makes everything, multiple times harder. Anything that you want to do, you start being really looking at yourself as a weak person, and nothing ever goes right for me, and the world's coming after me, and nobody understands. And so that's definitely a symptom of opiate addiction, is that feeling. And but yeah, if you wanna ruin some relationships, man, being an opiate addict is a surefire way to do that. Yeah, it took some time to rebuild, for sure, with friends, or even more importantly, my own relationship with myself, and being able to, do the right things for myself, to then begin to grow some courage inside to trust myself again. That's a long process.
How did your father find out?
He had a carpet cleaning business, and so it would be the hot time of year, and I have these long sleeve shirts on, and eventually, he saw that I was different, and one of his friends said, well, maybe he's doing heroin. And sure enough, that was it. And so my for some reason, this is how beliefs get into you and grow inside of you. But my mom's side, my grandfather and his other two brothers were heroin addicts from a young age, from like 14, 15 years old. So somehow when I was a kid, I definitely got it into my head that, like, not be a heroin addict, but at some point, I'll probably try opiates or try, opium or something like that. And sure enough, that happened, and that seed was planted in there from an early age. But yeah, he was my father was able to see, because I had the long sleeve jacket out, and it's 102 outside.
And you would use that to cover track marks.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Had you made attempts to quit in the past?
Oh yeah. Even before that, I'd be, on my own. Once you realize the first time that you get sick from not having opiates, it's a scary thing. I remember, the first part of it, taking pills and running out and thinking, no biggie, I just won't have any for a bit. And 24 hours later, the withdrawals kicked in. I didn't put two and two together at the time, but once you realize, definitely changes things. So, certainly tried multiple times, and was able to go for, anywhere from a week to a month, 2 months, but that was about it. And just, my own self not being able to deal just with my own emotions and be with myself and my own thoughts, like, that's what took me back.
So to change gears a little bit, what is Iboga?
That's a big question. So for those that don't know Iboga, it's a plant that grows in West Central Africa. So Gabon, the main one, Cameroon, and the Congo. So that's, after the Amazon, that's the second largest rainforest in the world. So it's rainforest there. It needs a lot of humidity. It's basically a small bush or shrub. It might get as high as 2.5 meters or so, but it's a pretty small shrub. And so what the first people to have Iboga were the pygmies in Africa. And at some point, there's a legend that goes along with that they were able to find out that by eating the roots of the Iboga, they were able to gain insights into their life. So it's the way I view Iboga, it's a plant that's here for us humans to work through things that we deal with as humans. And so with my relationship with Iboga, I'm what you call Bwiti, and Bwiti is somebody that's been to Africa and gone through this initiation process and a ceremonial process and a person that uses Iboga to study life itself. And so the Bwiti tradition is really about taking the lessons from Iboga and from ourselves. Really Iboga just connects us with ourselves on a deep level to access the truth and the answers that are already inside of us. And so, we, with our tradition and work with Iboga, we're really looking at how do we live life? How do we manage these things that all humans, regardless of your male, female, or where you're from, or how old you are, we all have to deal with certain things in life. And so, we use Iboga as a tool to study life. So, there's Iboga in its purest form is just strips off of the actual roots of the plant. So it's the second layer of skin, second layer of root bark that grows on the plant. And so typically that's powdered up into a fine powder and served off of a spoon traditionally. There's also total alkaloid extract Iboga, and so that is used. There's a couple different ways to do that. Myself, whenever we do that, we make it with just plain white vinegar, not using anything else at all. So it's an organic process. But some people, especially if did it in some sort of scientific setting, they would also use ammonia and some other ingredients to extract all the alkaloids from the plant, and have that kind of full spectrum experience. Whereas, some of the people may have heard of Ibogaine clinics. And so Ibogaine clinics use just one alkaloid from the Iboga plant. Or what's good is a lot of them are now sourcing their Ibogaine from another plant called Bokanga, which is actually able to be synthesized. The alkaloid in Bokanga is able to be synthesized into Ibogaine. And so that's good. It's a lot more plentiful plant, and I believe it grows quicker, and so a lot of people are using that for the Ibogaine, and so it's used. People have heard of Ibogaine clinics. Those are typically set up specifically for drug addiction and opiate addicts because Iboga or Ibogaine is the only thing known on Earth to alleviate the physical withdrawal of opiate addiction. So if somebody is going through a physical withdrawal, if you give them some Iboga or Ibogaine, and you dose them properly, within 45 minutes to an hour, 80-90% of those withdrawal symptoms are going to subside. So it's the only thing known to man that does that. And so it's known a lot for opiate addiction, but like I mentioned a bit earlier, it's really a tool for anything we're looking for in life, whether that's direction or decisions, managing our own mind. Like, it's just a very valuable tool for living life.
So when you found this and you took it, were you suffering from opiate withdrawal at the time?
Yes. So I had planned it out. I was at a point my life where I was just doing prescription opiates, and so I wasn't at my worst, but I still knew I was in for a doozy. And so I timed it out where my last pill was taken, and then 6 hours later I started with the dosing of the Iboga. And I worked through about half of what I had, and I was I could feel it coming on. I was like, I think I'm good. It's very, very potent. It's not a subtle feeling once it starts coming on. And but the amazing thing was 45 minutes or so after taking that, the physical withdrawal effects from opiates did subside greatly. But then I was in for a long journey. So from that point, I was awake for at least 72 hours. So for a good 3 nights, finally got some sleep on the 4th night, and just really, the first time, especially for addicts. It's much different for people that are not addicts that have Iboga, but especially for addicts, the first time that medicine goes through you, it's just such a, it's in there just scraping out the opiates. It's surging through the receptors in your brain, and it's just a really strong cleanse. And so the first time that happens, man, you really feel it, and you're really laid out where you don't want to move at all for quite a long time, except to go to the bathroom maybe. And so I went through that process. By day 5 I was pretty well through it. I was still a bit sleepy and had maybe had one decent night's sleep. I needed to catch up on sleep, but physically I was doing really, really well for considering five days prior I was I had to have opiates, and all of a sudden I didn't anymore.
Could you describe your first Iboga experience, both physically and mentally? I'm kind of curious about the physical sensations as well as what happened mentally to you.
Yes, so physically, it has a lot of the same symptoms on people. So typically when the medicine starts coming on, if you start hearing a buzzing sound or a ringing in your ears, it's definitely coming on strong, and you want to make sure you're getting laid down. Some people, their heart rate goes up a bit or down. I know mine went up a little bit. Nothing where you're worried about it or anything, but you do feel your heart go up a little bit, and the blood starts pulsing through you. Some people may yawn a bit. You might get a slight bit twitchy, physically, but and then at certain points, depending on what's going on, I got nauseous for a bit. I didn't ever end up purging orally or vomiting, but I remember feeling nauseous and feeling kind of a vertigo feeling laying there. And after maybe 4 hours or so, that pretty much passed. And you get very sensitive to light. So my eyes were closed. I didn't have an eye mask at the time. That would have been ideal, but just wanted to keep my eyes closed. Even something like a candle can just seem like a lighthouse. It's very, very sensitive to light at all, and makes you move very slowly, which you do want to do with Iboga. You don't want to make any quick movements or go get up really quick. If you do have to get up, I had somebody to help me get to the bathroom and back safely and get back in bed. But it was a very different experience that first time compared to the subsequent times once I was clean. Whenever you do that for a detox, typically the experience is pretty dark and pretty blurry. That's because there's a battle going on between this medicine to clean you and and so there's not a lot of you can get some insights and intuitions about things, but the medicine is really focusing on getting you physically clean, because without that there's no growth happening anyway. So it definitely focuses on that first. I remember having some different visions, which didn't really make a lot of sense. A little bit at a later time, and so that's one thing. Typically, people that are using Iboga or Iboga detox won't have a lot of visions. Sometimes they will, whereas when somebody is clean and takes care of themselves, they can certainly have visions. Some are significant. When they are significant, it's very powerful. Other times, the visions can just be a detoxing of the mind, and we carry around so many experiences from us and so many subconscious just images in our mind, that a lot of times those can come out as well. And so so it's a very different, whenever you have a significant vision on Iboga, it's a very different experience compared to other medicines. It just seems that much more personal, and that much more real, and that much more like something you really need to pay attention to. And yeah, it's just it can really hit you inside where it can really bring about some positive things in your life when those do happen.
Did anything stand out mentally with your first experience, though?
Not a whole lot, man. It was just like, get clean. It really didn't go into, some people will talk about Iboga really going to the root and showing them, why they are the way they are, and, maybe a couple specific things that happened that made them take this path. For me, I didn't get that. I knew it was a combination of a lot of different things while I was in the situation I was in. But I definitely remember thinking, like, get through this and just get clean. Get through this, and, getting the message that, the Iboga's working and doing its work. Now, after that, once I got through that and started working with the medicine in a deeper way, absolutely have gotten just a lifetime worth of gifts from it that I could take with me.
I see. So how did that, what was the day after like? Or I guess, what was the third day after like, whenever you finally came to?
It was definitely amazing in the sense that, I wasn't there shaking, and I didn't have, maybe I would yawn a little bit or have a little runny nose here and there, but after nothing like opiate withdrawal at all. So just being really, really grateful for being able to get to that spot, and just appreciation for the plant. What an amazing thing it is that it can help people with one of the most serious problems that we'll ever encounter. It's tough to get a bigger problem than an opiate addiction, that's for sure. And so to have a tool there that can just help you through that and get you through that pain, I'm just really appreciative to be there, to be, living my life and not have to depend on anything. It was huge. And so I was very sensitive for the days after. It really, like I mentioned, all of a sudden emotions and things come up that have been masked for a really long time. And so just simple things, you'd see, a parent walking in hand with their kid or something, or somebody giving somebody a hug. And yeah, I remember just crying a lot, just at good things though, crying at just like, wow, there's a lot of love there, and a lot of, emotions that were coming back that I just hadn't felt. So I was pretty sensitive, but content and grateful to be in that spot.
Did you experience a significant change in your life shortly after? That's kind of a silly question, I know, but how
Yeah,
what was the change that you experienced?
so yeah, no, I definitely think that's a big one. So, um, like I said, I got physically clean and all of a sudden, feeling things that I didn't feel before. But then it really was a slow path. Like I didn't really have a lot of guidance. I searched for a lot of other things when I was younger. Religion, read all the self-help books. Even tried Scientology, meditation, tried it all. But I just, even at that point, I really didn't have a good idea of how to manage life. And so it was really like starting fresh, and I didn't have the guidance at that time of our teacher. And so that's why it was so significant that, I think I could have found my way through and got myself to a good spot. But after meeting our teacher and being able to have those experiences with him and have him share the tradition with us and really give us a foundation for how to live and how to approach life, like that's when things got a whole lot better. So it was a long process. So maybe a year and a half after my first Iboga experience, I met him, and then it was a good 3 years of having some medicine and just going inside and really looking at myself. I'd say it took a good 5 years to get to a spot where I could actually say, I'm in a good spot now, and I can, definitely have moved past some serious flaws in myself. But it was a slow process.
Would you mind talking about one or two of those flaws that you recognized and were able to change?
Yeah, so one of the big ones which brought a lot of stress on myself, and I always felt like I was being judged or really put too much weight into what other people think of me. And so if somebody didn't approve of me, or for whatever reason they didn't like me, like I took that way too far in, and just really held on to that. So really learning to through working with the medicine will teach us that the only thing we can control in our lives is ourselves. We can't control what other people think. We can't control what they do. So being able to let go of putting your weight, or putting your happiness in the hands of others and what they think. Yeah, that's a big one. So that was a big one for me. Really part of that is being oversensitive. And that took a bit to work with, and really realizing that I'm not going to change being sensitive, but I can change. I can use it as an asset rather than using it as a fault. I want to be able to feel things and connect with things and other people, but the difference is it gave me the boundaries and just a sense of my own protection or spiritual protection, to where I was able to become very very deliberate in what I allowed in and what I allowed to come in to me, what I allowed to really take into my own conscious. And if it wasn't good for me, it was something that I knew wasn't good, then I just wouldn't take it in, and I had the strength to do that. It's really about caring about myself enough to not carry around everybody else's stuff, and carry around things that are outside of myself. And then I healed a lot too, just understanding my family. I mentioned my grandfather earlier, and my mom's side, there's definitely a lot of dark things happening there, and really just coming to acceptance on those things, and understanding that they're human too, and they did what they know how with what they had at that point in their life. And typically as humans, we think we're doing the right things, whenever we're making those decisions. And it's really a lot of times a very unconscious decision on, if we're hurting people or how we're hurting them or how we're, affecting other people. So really being able to accept that and just let that be and understand that, yes, that's my family. I've had those experiences. That doesn't decide who I am. That's not the determining factor in who I am. Each day really get to choose who I'm going to be, and I'm not going to be the guy that can't, that is just allowing, darkness and familial stuff to just follow me around and bring me down. So that was a big one as well. And the big one that we all get from Iboga, like Iboga is very much a mind medicine, and so it makes us very conscious of our own thoughts and how we're thinking. So, that's one of the big things we teach here is, really managing our own mind. Like that's such a, our mind is very, very active, and it's very powerful. It's the most powerful thing found in nature. And so, to not spend some time and give yourself some, to not spend some time working on managing the mind was a big one. And I had to a degree before that, but with Iboga, you're really confronted with it in a relentless way, especially during the experience, but then after the experience, it really sticks with you and just making you very aware of your own thoughts and, how you're taking those thoughts in, what you're making them mean for yourself. And so that was, when I say it was several years of growth there, a big part of those several years was just really watching my own mind. And, what happens after a while, is the thoughts that don't serve me, that there's nothing left to learn. If it's just the old story on repeat coming in again, after I sat with it enough, I don't, I just don't react to it anymore. So what happens is, the mind knows it's not getting a reaction out of me anymore, then it just slows down. When it does come up now, I just kind of laugh at it. There's my old friend, but really a lot of work on my own mind going through that process was a huge part of it.
This episode was produced by me, Philip Johnson. All songs used can be found in the description section of this episode. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Iboga or Ibogaine, you can do so at Iboga Wellness Center's website, ibogawellness.com. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe. Also, rate and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you'd like to get a sneak peek at upcoming Psychotropic episodes, you can do so by following Psychotropic on Instagram at Psychotropic Podcast, all one word. If you value the show and would like to show your support, you can do so in a number of ways. Besides rating and leaving a review, you can write in and tell me what you think, or share a story. You can also check out Psychotropic-related merch, which, as of right now, consists of a t-shirt. Lastly, if you'd like to show your support, you can become a patron. All of this can be done at psychotropicpodcast.com. Whatever you decide to do, thank you so much in advance. Thanks again for listening, everybody. See you next time.